Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into today's video, if you could just hit that subscribe button down below, that would really help me out. And also, our good friend Rocco Dean, Rocco from the Leeds That podcast, and has been on Just Joe Football Show, has been on Joe's podcast. He's been all around. You'll know his face. Rocco has released his new book, Marcelo Bielsa versus the Premier League. I'm one of the first ones to receive a copy, so really big thanks to Rocco for that. But if you want to get yourself one, head to Leeds That. The link will be in the description and the book is on there to buy. I really recommend it. It'll be sat in the background of my videos for the foreseeable future. But yes, let's get into today's video then. So, Karl Darlow. Karl Darlow is the replacement for Meslier. He's been linked for a while, and it seems now that the fee is only going to be in the region of £400,000, which is an absolute bargain, especially because Newcastle fans are actually expecting to get about 5 or 6 million for Karl Darlow. And I truly believe that if we'd have had our previous scouting and director of football team, we would have probably ended up paying 4 or 5, 6 million for Karl Darlow. But with our new links back to Newcastle as well, because of Nick Hammond and the way that he's been running things, this seems like a really, really good deal and an absolute bargain. Karl Darlow's 32. Obviously, he spent most of his career at Newcastle United, but the second half of last season he spent at Hull City on loan in the Championship. And a lot of people have concerns because there's kind of this stigma around Karl Darlow that he's terrible with his feet, and that he's not a fantastic goalkeeper. But when Newcastle were down in the Championship, he was a good enough and serviceable enough goalkeeper to get them back up again. And we are going to look at a few of his statistics now. Not in massive amounts of detail, but thanks to All Stats, aren't we, for tweeting this one out a few weeks ago. Because they have access to Y-Scout, which is like a bigger database of statistics and stuff, and this kind of dispels the myth. So when we look at Karl Darlow's passing then, short to medium passes per 90, 26.53. For a bit of context, that is in the 99th percentile in the Championship and other similar leagues for goalkeepers. So he is up there in the top 1% of passes made from the goalkeeper position. Accurate as well, 97.98 of percent of his are accurate, and that puts him in the just over the 60th percentile, so decent again. Not amazing, but for a goalkeeper you're expecting some of those to be varied, and the longer ones will subtract from the shorter ones in terms of accuracy. Long passes per 99.94, so that puts him back up in the 72nd percentile from that. So he does try some long passes as well, but his accurate long passes percentage, 56.92%, which is really low. It puts him in the 15th percentile on the average. Pass length in terms of meters is 28.48 meters, which, although that says that he's in like the 12th percentile, that's not a bad thing, because it just shows that he was playing out from the back a lot more at Hull. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. It looks bad. For some reason it's in red, but that's because he's been playing a lot of his passes short and out from the back. Conceded goals per 90, 1.07, and that puts him in the 70th percentile. Now, let's not forget he was playing for Hull, who weren't one of the best teams defensively. They actually lost most of their games, but Karl Darlow kept him in games as much as he possibly could. Goalkeeper line exits per 90. Now, this is one that we need to look into, because I've said that Meslier is not the sort of keeper we need anymore, because he doesn't come off his line, he doesn't claim things, and he's not sort of proactive enough. But Karl Darlow, line exits per 90, 2.45, which puts him in the 95th percentile. Now, line exits is coming off his line for crosses, long throws, corners, things like that, coming off his line and coming and claiming the ball, which is really good. Meslier would be right down there in terms of that, because he doesn't claim, and when he does, he likes to punch. I think Karl Darlow's a lot more commanding, and some of the things that you can't see from statistics and that you physically see when you watch Karl Darlow is he loves commanding his defence. He'll control his box, he'll tell the defenders where to go, and that is something we've lacked as well with Meslier. We had it a little bit with Robles, but we sort of saw what a goalkeeper could be in terms of commanding and organising when we had Robles, and I hope that if Darlow can do that, that would really, really help out our back line in terms of shape. The next one is prevented goals per 90, so 0.22, which doesn't sound fantastic, but when you actually look at it, it puts him in the 88th percentile. And for playing for somebody like Hull, where they, like I said, lost most of the games he played in when he came in the second half of the season, 0.22 puts him up in the 88th percentile, which is actually really, really decent. His save rate is the 70.83% of shots he faces, he saves, which is the 65th percentile. Just as we go on through this, obviously the 50th percentile is the average for goalkeepers, so most of he's well above average in the championship. That's compared against 129 goalkeepers in comparable leagues in Europe who have played a similar amount of minutes to him. I think he played 1,080 minutes last season for Hull. So this is one where a year ago, or let's even say we were in the championship a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have said, oh no, we need somebody else, we need a Nubel who've been linked with, or somebody else. But I am a little bit guilty sometimes of being a little bit of a football hipster, wanting that European signing, wanting that uncovery of an absolute gem from somewhere. But sometimes it's sensible to go with an option like Karl Darlow. He's solid, he knows the league, he's commanding, he'll control his box well, he'll come for crosses, he'll be able to pass it out from the back, he'll be able to do everything that Daniel Farke wants him to do. And for 400 grand in today's football, that is really, really good. And not only is it good that he is 400 grand for his own transfer's sake, but the fact that with profit and sustainability and being able to buy more players, that will allow us to put more money into other players, like say a striker. It might allow us to splash out a little bit more on Joel Perreault, add the 4 or 5 million you would have spent on a goalkeeper to the budget that you've got for a striker, and you seem to then add a little bit more on, and you can start to realise that bringing in cheap players like this can really help us in other areas. Hopefully we start to see some more movement on the striker front soon. We also need a left back, and now that Verber is going, which I actually haven't mentioned on the channel yet, Verber is going on loan to Borussia Mönchengladbach, and he probably won't be back now, so we need another left centre back really. We've got Cooper and Strauch who can do well there, but I think we do need more backup there, but it's not the priority. For me, we need a left back, we need a striker, and we need another central midfielder. We really do. But yeah, that's my sort of thoughts on Karl Darlow. Let me know what you think below, whether you're underwhelmed by this or whether you think it's just a good, solid championship signing, because to me, that's where I sit with it. It's a good, solid championship signing, and I think he'll do really well under the tutelage of Daniel Farke. He's 32, so for a goalkeeper, that's kind of prime age, and he's probably got 3 to 4 years before he starts to tail off a little bit. But you could easily take him to the Premier League and then have him as a backup if you buy a new keeper, which I would expect is the sort of thing that you might do if we were promoted, because I don't think he's particularly a Premier League level goalkeeper if you're being ambitious. But for now, 400 grand, you can't sniff at that. I think it's a really good signing for Leeds. So yeah, that's going to be the end of this one. I'm really excited about who we bring in next. Hopefully it's a striker, because we really need one in that Forest game when Dan James was putting balls straight across the face of the box and there was nobody there. That is the moments where we really, really need a striker. But we'll get more into that into another video. But yeah, thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you next time on Leeds Lately.